Hello imaginative people and welcome to Brainstorium. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dreampunk and deeply weird fantasy author, and yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Let me be your inspiration mystic, here to take your imagination to a whole new world of story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. So send me some words through my play page at annatizard.com and hear what happens when they're pulled out of the socks of destiny. Let the games and the stories begin. This is episode 18. In the last show, I read out what I call a glimpse or a brief first draft of a scene, just an impression of a character and a situation that might or might not develop into a full story, inspired by an exquisite corpse that came up during the gameplay in the show before that. It was quite a serious feeling piece, slightly haunting, hinting at some heavy emotions and a tinge of darkness. Well, today I have something more amusing to share with you, based on an Exquisite Corpse result that cropped up in that show. I feel like in some tiny way I'm helping to create balance in the universe. Something serious last week, something rather silly this week. But first, I want to share with you some comments that have come in about the show and the new format. The author M.L. White, also known as Mariah when she sends me lots of words for the Exquisite Corpse games, got in touch to say that the show was funny and interesting as always. Now, I was asking for feedback at the time on what types of updates listeners would like in this new, slightly shorter format of the show, and Mariah said she'd like to get more updates on your writing in the next episodes, though any updates are welcome. Your show continues inspiring me and giving me new ideas. I've written 2 stories based on Exquisite Corpse results already, and now I'm thinking about the captain and the factory. Now, Mariah's referring to the results in the last show, episode 17, which were the ubiquitous starship captain was frightened of the sultry anguish, and the interstellar nightjar cleaned the factory with the needless astronaut. Wow, tell me if you come up with something for that one. I love to hear that other writers are getting inspiration from the show. That is just amazing. 2 short stories. Mariah, you'll have to let us know when or if you get them published anywhere soon, and then I can announce where they are so people can find them and have a read. In the meantime, if you haven't already heard it, I did read out a short story by M.L. White in episode 13 called The Space Package. And now that those earlier episodes, 1 to 16, with all the bonus material that they had, have transpositions on the Brainstorium page, you can read that story as well as listen to it if you like, if you click on the link to episode 13 on the Brainstorium page. Now, Mariah also said she's been thinking of more conventional ways of using the Exquisite Corpse game results. I find that if a game result is treated as a set of words rather than a sentence, it can be a good writing prompt for any story, not necessarily weird or including fantastical elements, which means it can inspire even those who never write fantasy. And these unusual ideas really help to free one's imagination. That's very insightful, Mariah. I think I often get caught up in the challenge of Exquisite Corpse. In fact, since changing the format of the show, I've even renamed the subtitle of Brainstorium from Creative Writing Inspiration to Storytelling Challenge, as I feel like that kind of sums it up really well. But I get so involved in trying to solve the puzzle of an Exquisite Corpse that sometimes I forget that we can, of course, just look at parts of the sentences and words on their own to see if they alone suggest something to us that might become a story or influence where an existing story we're writing might go. And it's kind of serendipitous that Mariah's brought this up now because of what I'm working on. In between writing Exquisite Corpse stories, I am working on something a little bit longer that isn't strictly based on an Exquisite Corpse result or even a describing word-noun combination, but kind of started with one of those. It's very early days, so I'm not ready to tell anyone exactly what it's about yet, but I can say it's about a ghost hunter and it's quite dark. The idea initially came to me back in around mid-September when I was doing a call out for Halloween themed stories, and one of the Exquisite Corpses on the suggestion list was the disgruntled ghost hunter eloped with the anthropomorphic mushroom. I was kind of hoping that someone would write a story on that. They didn't, but that didn't matter because I really loved the stories that came in, which you can listen to if you haven't already in episode 16, as well as read if you have a look at the transcription at annatizard.com. Just click on the Brainstorium page and scroll down for those transcriptions and you can read it all. But it's going back to my ghost hunting story. Just hearing that sentence, or maybe even just the phrase disgruntled ghost hunter, got me in the mood for a ghost hunting story. I wrote something very brief and very sketchy. It didn't really go anywhere, but then these other ideas started to sprout from that in a totally different direction. And while I'm not really sure that disgruntled is the right word anymore for this ghost hunter I'm writing about, it started me off on a journey into this story that otherwise would not have begun. Actually, what I've been doing is drafting the story on and off, taking breaks from it by writing the odd Exquisite Corpse story. Because for me, when I'm writing something really dark like this, I feel like I want to take breaks because it just gets too heavy. And Exquisite Corpse stories are sometimes humorous or might have a little touch of humour in them, and it gives me a little bit of light relief to just take a rest from the heavy dark stuff and just look at something light and explore that. Speaking of which, I think it's time I shared with you my new draft short story that I wrote based on an Exquisite Corpse that cropped up in the last show. This was The Petrified Horse Sold Their Name to the All-Consuming Axolotl. Just to remind you, because I had to look it up, an axolotl is a Mexican salamander which retains its larval form throughout its life despite being able to breed. Now, if you heard the show, you'll know this led me down a slightly unusual line of thinking about youth, artificially extended youth perhaps, and aging pop stars, because they're a really likely candidate these days for trying out ways to stay youthful, like a salamander. So I'll just read that Exquisite Corpse again before I read the story, because it's so weird, it sort of fades from the mind almost as soon as you've heard it. The petrified horse sold their name to the all-consuming axolotl. And of course it's not going to be a literal petrified horse. And I must say thank you again to Paul Thomas, Mariah, Fraser Armitage, the Poet's Goblin, and Tess_2020 on Twitter, who sent me the words that flowed from the socks of destiny in the last episode to give me this Exquisite Corpse. I'm not sure what I'm going to call the story yet, but here goes anyway. You're a goddess, an absolute goddess. While Tag, her makeup artist, danced around her with a squirrel-haired brush, dabbing and smoothing her already perfect cheeks. Axolotl beamed at her mirrored self through her eyes. She couldn't smile with any other part of her face, thanks to the genius work of her cosmetic surgeon over the many, many years. But what was left for her? Now that Axolotl's first 3 albums had hit the top 10 charts once more, riding the sequin-spangled retro trend, the feeling that something was missing began to creep into her once again. She drummed her clawed nails against the arm of the dressing room chair. What to do, what to do? Find me a lipstick that matches these nails. What's this colour? Rage, said Tag. Perfect. This time she showed her teeth. And when's that horsey woman coming by? Tag hesitated. She likes to be known as Equinestra. Yes, yes. She let go a snort at this, not for the first time. Fancy naming yourself after your very worst feature. Stars and Thunder magazine finds her quite becoming, murmured Tag. The poor thing was probably defending the younger star's makeup artist, or maybe even makeup artistry in general. But Axolotl carried on as if he hadn't spoken. I mean, the rest of us just pay a good surgeon to correct our flaws. We don't go naming ourselves after them. Tag bowed his head a little. It might have been a nod, or a sad acknowledgement that his opinion officially didn't matter. Well, when is she coming? Where is that watch with all the scratchy diamonds on it? Tag opened his mouth to answer, but was interrupted by the tinny strains of a guitar solo, the instrumental of Axolotl's best-selling single, Hump Me Dump Me, in place of a doorbell chime. They both paused as the guitar reached its climactic squeal, then faded abruptly. That'll be her now, said Tag. He bobbed his head and hurried out of the room. Axolotl waited, eyes flashing at the mirror. The sound of high heels in the corridor clocked closer. Her lips trembled with restrained laughter as she realised there were 4 feet making that equestrian sound, though of course the young star's own footsteps were doubled as Tag guided her in his favourite white glitter platforms. Ah, how lovely! Axolotl glimmered sweetly at the young woman at the door, who wore a red leather onesie. Tag, pull up a chair and go make coffee, she snapped. It's an honour to meet you, gasped Equinestra, offering a tense, cold hand, just as the door bumped behind the makeup artist and all-round servant. Shut up and take a seat, said Axolotl. We both know why you're here. Equinestra did as she was told, stammering and stuttering, her fingers shivering on her lap like 2 spiders unsure how to make love. I'm joking, Axolotl boomed. It's great to meet you. Like I said on the phone, I think we can work together. That is, I think we can launch your career if we do something about your... She flicked her hand. Style. I have all the best contacts, songwriters, choreographers, you name it. Let's make you a real star. Equinestra's fingers grew still. I'll do whatever it takes. But how much do you want? The silence thickened. Axolotl chewed the end of her tongue delicately, soaking up the tension. This was what she loved. Real power, up close and personal. She leaned forward ever so slightly. The girl, for she was barely out of her teens, for goodness sake, mirrored her movement. Your name. The oh-so-mobile mouth popped open. That'll cause wrinkles later, Axolotl thought. What do you mean? Gasped the girl. You know I'm No, your real name. But why? The overhead light glistened on the woman's prominent front teeth. Axolotl puffed out a sigh, rolling her rage-painted nails. When you get to my level of success, my level of influence... She ran a finger along the arm of the chair, the studio light a smooth slope against the lacquered red. you have to take a good long look at what it is you really want. What's left to want? More money? More power? Or, and this is confidential, mind you, is it time for me to open my heart and my purse to someone who's just starting out on their journey? A rising star, let's say, whose third hit only just brushed the edges of the top 40. Oh, Axolotl, Equinestra's eyes brimmed with tears. Are you really, honestly going to help me? Why not? She spread her hands. But had Equinestra not been welling up, and perhaps had she not been wearing ultra-abundance crow-black mascara 3 layers deep that day, she might have caught the wicked gleam in Axolotl's eyes at that very moment. But what difference does it make to know my real name? The young woman stuttered, still unable to believe her luck. Oh, it's just a way of getting to know you better, the real you. The more I understand about who you are, about your past, for instance. She dug the tip of one claw so it pinched a line into the chair arm's cover, like how you got here and what drives you. I came by taxi, said her protégé. I didn't ask the driver's name. Yes, I meant how you got to this point in your life and what motivates you. I need to know all your secrets before we can truly work together and turn all that is you into a star. All my secrets? Let's just start with your name. It's Amanda Grubbs. She looked away, flushing fiercely. Ah! Axolotl tipped her head back and considered the ceiling. There was a speck of dust she'd get tag onto this afternoon. Right. She sat up. Well, that's probably enough sharing for today. What? Aren't we going to talk a bit more? What's the plan? What's our strategy? Oh, there's plenty of time for that. Tag will book you in for another appointment. He'll call you. She swung around to face the mirror again. Now I must prepare for an interview with All That Glitters magazine. Absorbed into her own perfection once more, it seemed a matter of seconds before the girl was gone and Tag was there by her side again, setting down 2 cups of coffee and exclaiming at how quickly their visitor had gone. He took up his makeup brush again. You are a goddess, Axolotl. Yes, I am. She was more than that. Later, after the interview, and once Tag had ordered her taxi back to the hotel, Axolotl sat alone in her room with the unrolled parchment. Dipping her index nail into the red ink, or was it blood? She scratched the girl's name onto the page, scoring a thin line under it. Amanda Grubbs, you are mine, she said. In what ways would she use this little, desperate girl? What else might be scored into this ancient parchment of borrowed power? She wasn't sure yet exactly, but Axolotl knew her own career was about to take a new injection of energy. After all, she didn't name herself after an ever-young amphibian for nothing. Eternal youth came at a price, the price of whoever was foolish enough to pay. So, there it is. I don't know if I'll develop it further. Perhaps if I could work out exactly how this sorcery works and reveal the dark secret as to how Axolotl has kept herself young all these years, because you just know there's an ugly secret there. Will the young pop artist uncover it, perhaps? Lots to think about. But for now, I believe it is time to discover some more story ideas. It is time for the Socks of Destiny. That's right. Now, for those who haven't played the game or listened before, an Exquisite Corpse forms a sentence from the randomised words in this order: describing word noun, action, describing word noun. And that's why I have 3 socks of destiny for these 3 types of words and phrases, which I've jotted down from the entries of lovely people like yourself who sent me those words through my play page at annatizard.com. Now, let's see what the first describing word will be. So the first word is from, if I can unfold it, it is from Ian Nathaniel Cohen, gargantuan. Okay. Second word, a noun. This is from, oops, it just leapt out of my hand. It's a very eager piece of paper. It's from Simon L. Three-toed sloth. Okay, a gargantuan three-toed sloth. We have a monster on our hands, people. No denying that. Right, time for an action. This is from Mariah. It says, played with. I'm already thinking, one monster's game is another person's horror. So I wonder what they were playing. I think this part is for speculation. Let's see what or who they were playing with. This is from the Twitter ID Weird Micro that puts out various writing prompts. Heinous. Oh goodness, I think we might have a bit of a battle going on between monsters. I can see in my mind's eye 2 giant creatures having it out in the middle of a city and smashing everything they come into contact with. So the final word is from Becky_Clough. It's a Twitter ID. Otter. Okay. Right. We have the gargantuan three-toed sloth played with the heinous otter. Now don't forget, just like me, you have a pause button. So now might be a good time if you're going to do a story brainstorm on this one, to pause and jot it down. So I have indeed jotted it down. Let's have a think about this. Initially, I'm thinking we don't have to go with the obvious literal interpretation, of course. Yes, I have these giant monsters doing battle in my head. Of course they do, but they're not necessarily monsters. As with the axolotl and the petrified horse, I drew characteristics that, from those so-called characters to make human personalities, and fed that into a situation in a fairly realistic setting, even if there was some magic thrown in. So what could we do with these? Either of them could be a monster, and either of them, if not both of them, could be something else. I think I need my tea first though. What do you reckon? That's the ticket. Okay. Right, the magic of green tea, see what happens. I'm drawn to the otter first, a heinous otter. All I think of when I think of otters is those little hands. I'm sort of stuck between finding them cute and creepy because they've got such dexterous little hands. Next time you look up a picture of, come across a picture of an otter on the internet, look at their hands. I mean, if you could teach any animal to knit, aside from perhaps, I don't know, a chimp or a gorilla, I'm telling you, you've got a good chance with an otter. Okay, so totally sidetracked there. I doubt there's any knitting battles going on here. So we have a heinous otter. But what could it be other than an actual otter? It could be a slim man with lots of chest hair, plotting in a way that makes him twiddle his fingers in a dexterous yet creepy way. Yeah, there's some plotting going on there, but this gargantuan three-toed sloth is playing with him. Now, what could that be other than an actual gargantuan three-toed sloth? A nightclub? A very large nightclub? With three sort of wings to it? A bookshop? Ooh, why am I thinking about a bookshop? Evil booksellers. Evil booksellers playing economic games with each other. Price wars, that's what I'm thinking of. Taking over the internet with unfair use of search engines, manipulation of keywords, and internet advertising. Oh God, where did this come from? If a heinous otter is a bookshop, online or, a real physical bookshop, what would they sell? Would it be quite scary stuff? Perhaps it's a horror shop. Yeah, maybe it's just dark. It specialises in dark fiction and bizarre. My kind of bookshop. Whereas the gargantuan three-toed sloth, they they go for weird, but they're such a large bookshop, you can fit anything in there. Okay, I have no idea where all this has come from. I'm thinking about books a lot. I need to read more books. But equally, if I were to look at this from Mariah's perspective of just picking out certain words and just working with those and not necessarily getting quite so bizarre, in my compulsion to solve the whole riddle of the entire sentence, I'm most intrigued by the heinous otter as a slippery character, a guy with a lot of chest hair, yes, but also creepy fiddly hands. And just start with that image of a man in a darkened pub. He's halfway through his pint and he's sitting in the shadiest part of the pub on his own. He has a newspaper folded in front of him. Perhaps some part of it's been circled. Something here is significant to him. He's plotting something. Perhaps he's got his mobile phone handy, but he's tilted it towards him. Not that he's on the phone to anyone. Perhaps he's recording some ideas, some thoughts he has for later. Plotting something. And yeah, he'd have creepy hands. You've got to start with something. Why not? Some of the best ideas or best stories start with a single image, and you just have to explore that and see where it takes you. But for now, I think it's time for another Exquisite Corpse. Let's see. The first word is from me. Haha, I still have words in this. I thought I'd used mine up ages ago. Ah, book loving. Interesting. Bit of serendipity considering my ideas a moment ago. Who or what was book loving? This is from Paul Thomas. Oh, teddy bear. Oh, okay. Very cute. Again, we start with cute, but do we move towards heinous? Like the otter. Cute, but heinous. This is from Fraser Armitage. Solved the case of. Oh, that is a really good action. You could do something with that. Right, let this be a good one. This is from Joseph Clark. Rediscovering. That's an interesting describing word. Rediscovering. There's a story in that almost. What have you rediscovered? Or, what is it that you're in the process of rediscovering? This is from Paul Benfield. Portcullis. Oh, what is a rediscovering portcullis? That's so bizarre. Oh, I think I need more green tea. Good grief. Blimey. A rediscovering portcullis. The book-loving teddy bear solved the case of the rediscovering portcullis. That's some kind of super weird, that is. Of course, if we want to know what a rediscovering portcullis really is, we must ask the book-loving teddy bear because, hey, he solved the case. How does a portcullis rediscover something? That's that's a really intriguing idea. It makes me think, I love portals, but it really makes me think of something where some mechanism by which a doorway, for which you have a portcullis, so the grating that comes down to block it, it's the idea of something happening again, this rediscovering, that sometimes it's normal, like that it's just a doorway into the castle, but at other times the portcullis kind of rediscovers what's there. It's if you pull it down in a certain way and then pull it up again, then it leads to somewhere else. It becomes a portal to another world. Oh yeah, I like this kind of thing. But how did a book-loving teddy bear come to solve the case? Actually, book-loving works really well with this because you learn all sorts of things by reading, and you come to understand the world a lot better. So maybe this is just a very intelligent teddy bear, or just another hairy bloke. We have a lot of hair, or a hairy woman. We have hairy people today. Hairy people and books or bookshops. This is where we're at, apparently. But maybe we should just try going with the literal teddy bear. Why not? We have a teddy bear who loves reading books. He maybe doesn't live in a castle. He's visiting a castle. He's human. He belongs to a child who's there on a holiday. It's like a sort of a castle that's been reupholstered or whatever. It's sort of reconditioned so people can go there on holiday, kind of thing. And there's this little girl who's been running around the castle, has discovered that this old portcullis, which is sometimes pulled down as a kind of part of a special display, it's a demonstration as to the original working parts of the castle when it was in use as a castle rather than a hotel. She's noticed there's something strange going on with this, with the doorway, with this opening, where sometimes it looks different. She'll peer through to the other side, peer through the cracks, and the world will look different on the other side. Maybe she's come across someone opening, sort of lifting and lowering the portcullis during the night, and she's crept out of bed through the castle, tiptoed down at the sound of the clanking and the grating noises, and comes across someone, a person in a hood, who is pulling it up and down, and perhaps in secret communications with people on the other side where this other world is. It's kind of become about the little girl, except for the fact that the teddy bear has been following her, unbeknownst to her, as she tiptoes through. Her teddy bear has somehow come alive. There's something about the castle, the energy of the castle, or something else, some special object, a historical object. Maybe it's an old clock and it's chiming and it's woken up her teddy bear. And she doesn't realise this, that as she's sneaking around the castle at night, this teddy bear's tiptoeing after her as well. And one of them, you just know one of them is going to go through to the other world and then get trapped because the portcullis will come down. Perhaps it's the teddy bear who has to save her, has to convince her parents that he's real, that they're not hallucinating when he talks to them and tells them that their daughter's in terrible danger. And they've got to find out how to raise the portcullis in a particular way to be able to get to that other world. Ooh, I love this. I love this. Portals, yay! Right, one more exquisite corpse for the road, as they say. Well, they should say. Let's see, the first word is from a Twitter ID, Gamer Writer. Leafy. Okay. Actually, that's been, it's a slightly crinkly piece of, well, more crinkly than normal, this little slip of paper. I think it's been buried at the bottom of the socks of destiny for some time. Right, let's see what else awaits us in the noun sock. This is from Becky_Clough again. Astronaut. A leafy astronaut. Ooh. Okay. Gosh, I don't know if you can hear this, if this is being picked up by the microphone, but it's really windy outside. It's just kind of whistling like crazy. Right, this is from, we have an action from Michael Clayton. Transfigured. Ooh, that's an interesting word. Right, let's get our final describing word. This, if I can just prise it open, is from Alessandro Bozzo. Weird. Yep, that says what it should be. It's all weird. Final noun is from me again. Ooh. Language. Language. Oh, great. Okay, what have we got? The leafy astronaut transfigured the weird language. Now, how has a leafy astronaut, or how have they become leafy to start with? Has she landed on a very leafy planet and then come across some strange creatures or people who are speaking a weird language? Well, of course it's going to be a weird language to her. She's not from that planet. But in what way could she transfigure their language? Oh, I wonder if it's the plants. Since she's leafy, there's a plant language. Oh, they do say, don't they, that the mushrooms that grow underneath trees actually communicate with each other. They're actually conscious. Mycelium, that's the word I'm thinking of. And I can't help but thinking this is something along those lines. But then why would you want to transfigure that? I mean, transfigure is to transform into something more beautiful, or perhaps something almost spiritual. So how could that be the case, unless it becomes a spiritual thing, a spiritual discovery for the astronaut? So maybe in some way she's the one who's being transformed or transfigured as she discovers this weird language that these leafy plants speak. Ooh, that's really odd. Perhaps she could find a way to I suppose if she gets marooned there for some reason, but somehow she's able to cope with the atmosphere, so that's friendly, there's plenty of oxygen, she finds things to eat. Be careful which vegetables you eat. Don't eat any of these spiritual plants. Hopefully they would teach her what to eat and what not to eat, and she gradually learns their language and finds a way to interpret it and write it down into these texts that may become religious texts on Earth afterwards, when she finally makes it back home. At which point she probably would really, really miss it there. I think I would. That's okay, this is really weird. But hey, the word weird was in it. Thanks to Alessandro Bose. Oh, that's really strange. Oh, and I've just realised there's another connection. This third Exquisite Corpse also involves books. There was the book-loving teddy bear before this one, and then for whatever reason I was thinking about bookshops with the first one. Interesting. I need to go to a bookshop. Okay, I think that's enough Exquisite Corpse for today, but they work quite well, especially the middle one. I wonder if I might have something more to share with you in the next show based on one of these. I'll just have to see which one might grow in between my ghost story. I hope you enjoyed the show today and the gameplay. I'm still interested to hear of any more feedback people might have on the new format. What would you like to hear from me? Do you like hearing my short stories or story glimpses? Would you like more of my personal updates or writing updates? And have you had any inspiration from the Exquisite Corpse gameplay, either today or in a previous episode? I'd love to hear from you. Get in touch with me at annatizard.com. Send me a comment on the Brainstorium page. Just scroll underneath the show links, or find me on Twitter at annatizard.com. Until next time, go forth and be inspired.